Hey, Planeswalkers, MetaMaster Mythras here with your weekly update on Friday night meta, my friends. So today we're going to recap what happened last week. We'll dive into the week's events. We'll cover a key deck and how to beat that deck. And then we'll talk about what led up to some of the analytics that we're going to take a peek at here in our comprehensive, all-inclusive meta look for last week. So Planeswalkers, if you do have questions or comments, please let me know. Feel free to hop in the Discord server that is available to you down below in the description. Additionally, all the things I just mentioned are in the timestamps for you, so please feel free to tune into the section of the video that you would most enjoy and look for that information. Now, while you're there, feel free to flip me a like, and love to see you around again, and other great ways to support the channel down below in the details, my friends. So quick here, in terms of a recap, couple things. Last week we came out of the Kaldheim Championship. Arnie piloted Rogues. Rogues had big inroads, and I also said we want to keep an eye on this deck, so we're going to certainly take a look at that here today. And then additionally with that, mono red did flip in a couple of different spots, particularly in best of one on the ultimatum stuff, and we'll continue to track on that. And then also in best of three, Sultai ultimatum continued to dominate as well. So with that, Planeswalkers, we're going to dive into the best of one portion here first, take a look at that, and then we'll go over and check out our best of three portion. So with that, we'll look at collective totality of the meta, then we'll drill into the more competitive stuff because we've got a few more days here now, so certainly people are hitting that top 1500. We've seen a couple key number ones. Actually this deck, actually this week, mono black auras hit number one. I did a video on that too that you guys can check out. Super cool. Glad to see that happen, as we had talked about, something to keep an eye on as a portion of the meta as well. So here's what we got for the snapshot in best of one. Mono white life gain in the one spot, followed by aggro, mono white aggro, Boros cycling, mono red snow, and Sultai control. Dimmer Rogues has fallen. It was actually a little bit higher, so it's starting to get flushed down. We got mono black auras and Temur Adventure there. Now popularity, again, as a percentage of the meta, we can see snow taking first, life gain coming up in second, Dimmer Rogues followed by Sultai control, Boros cycling, and we'll continue to go from there. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on. So again, like I said, last week we had this epic rise in mono red that's typically followed by the rise in rogues because it's a hard counter, which we talked about, and then additionally the life gain had fallen but started to come back up a little bit there. Now, a lot of these things were happening kind of as we cut over into that new season here, so we only had like one day. Now, as you see, usually everything kind of resets at the beginning. We see a little bit of a drop in mono red. Now, the big key here, actually, so when we take a look at rogues, it's very fallen off or dropped off again, which is pretty interesting, to be honest. Now, what we do see is that mono white life gain coming back in as a big portion of what's going on here. So that's a big key indicator. Again, red really holds blue, the dimmer rogues in check, and then vice versa, mono white life gain holding mono red snow aggro in deck as well, in check. Now everything else is kind of just going sideways. So what's that mean? So when we go ahead and look at the win rates, this is a big thing. So life gain still continues to be one of the best. Mono white aggro continues to be one of the best, but it's been going down. So that's kind of a good indicator there, potentially. But we do see aggro going down still. But that doesn't mean it's not a choice to play. We see mono red, the regular mono red aggro, doing better, and then also snow aggro still in here, followed by some of these other things at the top end that were going down, like rogues, Sultai, but their win rates tend to start to go up, and that's what should happen. So as aggro fills more of the space, there's an advantage sometimes to go in the late game, at least depending on the deck, where things do get better. But that's also because of mono white life gain tending to be a little bit slower, being in that pack, because mono red's still a counter to Sultai and so forth. So those are all big things to keep an eye on, and we'll talk about these here in a little bit. Obviously, we'll closely watch this for Strixhaven. I know many of you asked me about that, but we do have another week, and next week it'll probably almost be too early out of the gate to see kind of how things move around, but I may do some commentary on it depending if I have enough time. No promises on this one on Strixhaven, because I know many of you asked me about that. So let's drill in again to one more level here, to more competitive. Still, we see the same stuff here. Everything else dropping off hard. It's primarily mono red and mono white in that race. And then again, you continue to see some of these win rates. So mono red's continuing to go up. A big portion of that is by beating down a lot of these decks there. So that's something to keep in mind. And again, the win rates and popularity of today. So that was best of one in a deep dive with the data. Let's go ahead and we're going to move over to best of three, because I think there is quite a bit of movement here worth noting. So again, it's totality win rates. Top three: mono red snow, mono white aggro, Boros cycling. Gruul Adventures is still doing well, and it's actually doing better than Team Robosh, which is kind of interesting. Then we got Naya Adventures, Dimmer Rogues, and Sultai Ultimatum. And then on the reverse, when we look at popularity, we got Sultai Ultimatum 16%. We're going to go talk about this in a little bit and take a look. But mono red snow aggro is getting really close. Dimmer Rogues is still pretty healthy. We got Obosh Adventure, Naya Adventure at 7.5, almost 7.5, Gruul Adventure, Boros Cycling, and that mono white aggro. So when we go and look at what's kind of transcended here or evolved, we see that peak in mono red. We see the drop off. Now it didn't keep going. It's going sideways. Same with Sultai. It had a bigger spread, but now it's starting to go down. Rogues is going down. Obosh is going sideways. The big one here is Naya Adventure. Pretty interesting. So when we look at what happened here over the course of the last kind of month, Naya was super hot, cooled all the way off, and now it's starting to come back up. So that's pretty interesting. So hold a pin on that one, because we're going to come back to it. And then when you look at some of these other things, again, they're kind of trading sideways, but Rogues is the big one that's kind of fallen off. Like I said, we're going to take a look at that. So now what matters? Let's go check out these win rates. So mono red's still been doing good, which makes sense, because late game decks it does okay against. It's a good counter against those. Then we walk into it here. We see Obosh actually really coming down. And part of that, again, is the Rogues decks that kind of helps keep that in check, but also some of these other decks starting to creep in here. Now we then begin to have this really, really interesting view, if you ask me, when it comes to Naya Adventure. So even though the deck's increasing in terms of play, the win rate's actually going down. So that's pretty interesting to see. You know, you would think people are piling in because the win rate's going up, but again, we'll come back to this. And then on top of that, we begin to see Gruul Adventures going up, and is it starting to creep up a little bit here with an upward trend in its win rate. So all good things here in best of three. We're going to go ahead and take one more step at this in terms of a little bit deeper dive. We see the similar aspects. We actually see mono red almost jumping over Sultai Ultimatum here. We see Obosh almost jumping over Rogues. Actually does jump over Rogues. And then that continued climb there, like we talked about. We see Gruul Aggro fall off a little bit, or Gruul Adventures. Same thing going on with the win rates here. So something to keep an eye on. Rogues is kind of doing okay. It's kind of in the upward trend there. So all big things to keep an eye on there for our best of three ones. And if you guys happen to watch as well, I did and was happy and very fortunate to do a collaboration with Defour. I'll have that down below for you as well. A lot of fun, you guys. We talked a little bit about the meta. My pick probably would have been Team Robosh, same with his, to show up for a tournament. Just given where it excels and plays well, we've seen a lot of top finishes. But why is this important? Well, I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Second piece here, now that we've talked about the best of one and the best of three, and we've seen this explosion in the Naya Adventures deck, what deck are we going to run to beat Naya Adventures? No, it was not Team Robosh, but again, we'll come back to that. So when we go look at the matchups here, this is pretty interesting. It's got a very low win rates against, or an unhealthy win rates against rogues. So that's certainly something you can play. Boros Cycling is certainly something you can play. Team Robosh, well, I guess I take that back. You can play Team Robosh, but it wasn't the best one there. But certainly one that's healthy that you can play. And then Sultai Ultimatum once again. So really interesting here. We do have mono green food, and we also have mono red snow aggro. So again, some aggressive range between aggressive decks and that rogues deck. So the real key deck that you're going to want to play here to take down the Naya Adventure deck is going to be the Dimir Rogues deck. Now, what you'll see in particular on these ones is that it doesn't have Jegantha. So we're going to talk about this here in a second, because this is going to be very important for us as we move in. But let's go ahead and check out the win rates. So again, slightly different style here, a couple different versions that people are running, but here we go. We're starting to see the Jegantha. So this is important here. That's the one that I want you guys to focus on. And here's another one, because that's going to be the biggest importance. Now, it's not the biggest win rate one, according to this, but this is the one that we got to keep an eye on. So let's go ahead and let's look at this one specifically and see if we have... no, I don't have that information on the backside. So again, just as an archetype, that's going to be the key one, is the Dimir Rogues deck. So why is this important? Let's go back to our best of 3 here. We'll go back to the meta. Why is this important? Well, a couple of key things, and we're going to show you why now. So when we look at what happened this past week, we had actually a couple big events. We had the Strixhaven 5K Championship by SCG. We also had a lovely Big Magic tournament, and also Insight Esports presents its Tier 1 5,000 Standard Open 2. Each of these events had, so this one had 240 players, this one had 150, this one had another 270. Now, what we see when we go down and look at some of the details here is going to be this. Boom. So again, we have the Team Adventures deck as one of those ones that we called out, like I said. So that was one of the reasons why I was saying that between me and DeFore. But the big piece here is Naya Adventures, Jegantha. Naya Adventures, Jegantha. So key things to keep an eye on. Cycling's doing well again, but this right here is a big indicator for us. Now again, three events. We'll keep an eye on. This was just one. Next, Big Magic, Naya Fury. Boom, right at the top. Very important to keep an eye on that we see these. Now there's another interesting trend here too. Sultai Ramp. So this is a different type of a Sultai deck, one important, a little bit different than the traditional Emergent. So we'll keep an eye on this one as things are starting to kind of change up here a little bit as well. And then again, the Teamer Adventures one with the Obosh, like we talked about. Now, here's something interesting. There is a mill deck here as well. So, hey, maybe that's going to be a game changer here with the last couple of days. So, pretty cool all around on that. Then, last but not least, we have our Insights Esports here. We have an interesting Mardu mid-range deck, which is pretty cool to see that. But again, Naya Fury, Naya tokens. So a lot of the top contenders here across 3 different events happen to be Naya. So, or some version of that. And again, the big one being, again, from SCG with the Jegantha. And that's why I was saying we got to keep an eye on that one and call that one out for sure, because we want to watch that. And we see a couple of Jegantha decks here as well, which is something we certainly want to manage and stay on top of. So with that, Planeswalkers, that is this week's episode of Friday Night Meta. Again, flip me a like if you enjoyed the video. If you got questions, like I said, please let me know. Love to hear from you in the comments. Additionally, feel free to hop in the Discord server. Love the community. We're almost at 100 people just in the Discord server, so pretty awesome. Additionally, Planeswalkers, great ways to stay in touch in the details outside of that, and other ways to support the channel, which I'm very thankful for and always appreciate very much. And a great heartfelt shout out to not only everyone watching the videos and liking the videos, but to the patrons and YouTube members that do a little extra. So appreciate that, and Twitch subs. So Planeswalkers, with that, as always, I hope you appreciated this week's Friday Night Meta by me, yours truly, Meta Master Mythras, where we did talk about what happened last week, bridge to what happened this week, covered best of one, covered best of three, broke those down for you in detail between the win rates, between the popularity in the deck archetypes, and then additionally covered off on the Naya Adventures story, on why it's becoming a little bit more popular from some of these events that we walked through, not just one, three, and then lastly gave you the deck to take that down, Rogues. So with that, Planeswalkers, we'll see you again soon. Stay safe. We got a lot of top decks coming your way. Like I said, I'll try and get some Strixhaven stuff out. Hopefully, I gotta actually go look at the cards. I believe I'll be playing in the MQ. You guys can check that out as well. I'll have gameplay down below of me hitting the top 1,000 this past month as well, if you didn't check that out this past week. So Planeswalkers, truly appreciate it. Stay safe. We'll see you again soon. Take care, and until next time, Mythras out.